Hi, this is Brianna Moore.
And I'm Evan Nash.
And we're here with the Better Detroit Youth News, as well as Mixing It Up with Barry Ross, the show on TV 33. And we're just out here on the streets of Detroit trying to ask citizens what they think about the economic state of the city, about jobs, and about creating more opportunities for our workers.
Yes, in the interviews we conducted, the ideals are very creative. People were very opinionated, some a little brash, but you'll find out yourself. Yeah, what do we need to do or offer them to, make more business opportunities or just offer new employment for us in the city?
Offer them educated workers. That is about it. What else you need to offer them?
I don't know, just get better police response, or maybe more armed security or things like that.
Training, job training, and everybody, they got to stop. The people that got felons, when they come out of penitentiary, they can't get the jobs.
Yeah.
So if they do something about that, why train them but you can't give them the jobs? Why give them the certificates if you're not going to give them the jobs?
I feel like they not doing enough for the felonies, for the people that's just getting out of prison, for people that's in Wayne County that need jobs.
So I believe the best thing that we can do is pretty much sell ourselves, Let people know that they're going to be safe here. Let people know that people are going to, be able to pass drug tests, not getting robbed when they come down here. People are actually going to be safe and actually are willing to work.
Think about if there was a website where people who have trades that companies could use, where they can go and register on there and let their employers look for their employees instead of us looking for a job.
Now, what type of interaction or conversation do you think citizens should have with corporations in order to create more opportunities or to get their attention focused on citizens of Detroit as opposed to outside areas?
I think it just has to be a whole citywide effort. I think everybody needs to come together and maybe consider hosting some type of event where they could get the attention of big corporations, maybe the executives, the heads, have them come out and, really let them see, bring the qualified people there so that they can see that, we do have this type of talent that's just basically being slept on here in the city.
Better ourselves, as people, rise up out of the madness and join together, Yeah.
One of the things we can do as Detroiters, we can break those stereotypes. Pull your pants up, educate yourself, talk with, without the slang. We don't have to succumb to what is supposed to be the status quo.
Some good things happened in the city. Maybe some people would see some hope. Maybe that would help.
What can we do to encourage maybe blue-collar workers who have either retired or if they've been laid off and they're looking for other opportunities? What can we do to encourage them to gain more skills, maybe technological skills, to get out there in the workforce and, make it more of a pool of people to choose from?
Well, I think it's almost like when you're young, you're 18 years old, you really don't know what you want to do when you go to college. Well, go to college. Okay, to do what? I'm not for sure. Now, here it is for older people. It's a lot of things that they want to do, but they don't know what's out here, for them, any trades or anything as such.
I think when you go to school, you should go for a double degree. Don't just limit yourself in one particular field.
One of the things we could do is, of course, through commercials, public awareness, things of that nature, and we can hold seminars and fairs to make sure that our people are ready, because to be very honest with you, there's a great percentage of people under the age of 30 that aren't ready.
Like I say, I'm 33, married with 5 kids, and right now I work, but it's hard to find that.
Technology, there's a lot of people, like you mentioned about blue-collar workers, retirees, people been laid off. A lot of them are afraid to get the new knowledge on the new technology of today. A lot of them have a fear of it, or they just rather not. How can we encourage these people or get them out of that state of fear, if you will, to really get out there and gain that knowledge on today's technology?
Good at that one. I fought the computers for years. I know they're here. Yeah, she has the computer knowledge. Right.
Well, I work in the finance industry and banking, so I see that every day, as far as online banking and such, people are terrified, But if you look at it, I'm glad that technology is advancing, but at the same time, the way they did it wasn't bad because they survived, just like how we're surviving. However, the world is not going to go back to paper and pen. We're on computers now. We're on PDAs and other things. So I think it's just really, important to sit down with them and just show them how easy it is. There are some people that are never going to convert. They're just not, they're happy doing things the way that they do it, and that's them. So what I do at my job every day is for those people that are willing to take a chance, that are willing to learn, I take out the time to sit down with them and show them. And when I deal with older people, whether it's my grandparents or whoever who have questions about, like my grandmother just got an iPad and she's all excited, and I just sit down and if she asks me a question about how to do something, I just show it to her. So eventually she'll be just as user savvy as anybody, or at least to a point where she can use the technology.
Well, I think that would come from their grandkids and great grandkids talking to them, sitting down talking to the grandparents and say, look, yeah, right, from your grandchildren, because they're the ones in that technology, and say, hey, look, grandma, this is what I had to go through. When you was going through, you could get a factory job with an 8th grade education, or none whatsoever. But now you got computers, you understand, running everything. You got to have somebody to run those computers.
Well, considering the fact that my grandmother and my grandfather, we've gotten them to like the iPhones.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you have to introduce it slowly and in moderation. You can't just be like, here's this laptop and here you go. Like you have to take them step by step, because older people, they didn't have computers, and they totally shut off to technology in general. So it might be like they might kind of be like, well, we can't do this. It's too hard. So I think you just have to introduce it in moderation.
What we do need to do is have, I would say, affordable classes and things as such for older people to get this technology up under their belt. We can do it. We older people can do it.
And what would you say has motivated you to, better yourself and put out a positive image of yourself?
The people that came before me, as far as my parents, my grandparents. I know my father, he's a Detroit police officer, so I'm looking to go into law enforcement. So growing up, I was raised to be a strong young man, be determined, and it basically starts at home. It starts at home. A lot of the parents aren't there. You got people that grow up without a father, without a mother, or without both, and you literally have teenagers and kids that's out here on their own. So nobody's really giving them a chance. They pretty much got to go out there and get it themselves. So
for me, to be honest with you, I was unhappy with my current situation. I have been working in the same field for several years. It was very rewarding, but I was unable to take care of my family. So I said, okay, because I need more, I've got to do more. And I think that my mother, her being that example, she was an educated woman, you know what I'm saying? And she was also in the nursing field. So those things. So I think that other people, they need to have role models in their lives, you know what I'm saying? And if they're not a relative, you need to find someone that's doing something positive that you can pattern yourself after, and you got to have the drive. No one's gonna hand you anything. You got to go after it. So if you got that kind of mentality, if you can put that in yourself, then I think you'll do well.
I don't know, you gotta let them know that that's the wave of the future. You want to get jobs or move on, you gotta better yourself and learn a new technology.
I say, it's all about personal development. I mean, for me, fortunate enough, I was able to go to a school where they really focus a lot on being ready to start a career, interviewing, and certain things like that. And I think that's something that this state might be missing, is as far as our youth, they really need to get educated, because what I've seen, even as a manager, is that a lot of people, they can do the work, but, how do they present themselves? And I think a lot of times that's cutting back on the opportunities available to people, is because they're not taking a step back to say, hey, let me make sure I have all my ducks in a row, and that I know I'm qualified, but I need to present myself in a way that they know I'm qualified, because at the end of the day, they have to sit there with you and work with you every day, and they don't want to be kicking themselves saying, we just spent thousands of dollars training this person and they're not reliable, or we can't depend on them, or they have anger management issues. So I think as a person, you just really have to invest in yourself first, and then present yourself to the world, because that's what interviewing is about, is in your resume is about selling yourself, marketing yourself. So if you're the product, you got to make sure people want to buy it.
And once again, you can find us on TV 33 and Comcast 20 every Tuesday.